everyone, happy Sunday. We are finally here. I think I've been talking about doing this video since the beginning of summer, but we are finally here and it's finally happening. Go shout it from the rooftops, go go grab your friends, go grab your kids. No, it's not really that exciting, I assume, but we have been so if you haven't been here for a coloring pencil collection video yet this year, let me kind of explain what is going on. So I'm in a collab with Tammy from Tammy Colors 2, and we thought it would be neat because we have a lot of the same pencils in our collections to do kind of a tandem review of our colored pencil collections, where she prefers to color like just with pencils, and so her videos really go in depth on the coloring pencils, how they color, particularly just the pencils, though she uses them different ways, and her thoughts on them. And so I thought it would be neat if I could do a follow-up video to all of her in-depth reviews and give my perspective as well on the brand of pencils from my side. I do color with pencils, and you'll see some pictures. The demos I use, I'm just using the pencils, but primarily I apologize for the loud noises, the road noises, because I am outside and apparently fall weather means really loud engines and motorcycles. It is a really pretty day outside. I guess I can't fault other people for being out here too. It's just like all the loud engines come out. It's weird. Anyway, so way I typically use pencils, because I have tendonitis, I have hand and wrist issues, and particularly my right arm and my right hand. I don't use pencils as often, and when I do, I tend to base my pages with marker, watercolor, some sort of light colored base, so then I can just come in and shade with pencils. So we thought it would be really interesting if she provided kind of a review of a colored pencil set, and then I provide my perspective as well, especially because I usually use pencils a little bit differently. So it kind of gives everybody two viewpoints on a pencil. Now, there are tons of other reviews on YouTube. I just thought this would be interesting and a little different. I don't know if other people have done this, and it's a fun project that Tammy and I can work on together. Now, in saying all that, so Tammy has her video. I'm going to post it in the description. If you really want a deep dive, like she has a testing sheet, she demos them on numerous types of paper. If you really want the super in-depth review, I highly recommend you go watch her video. She really does a deep dive into the pencils. If you kind of just want a quick overview of the pencils, I would say this video is probably for you. I will try to keep it as brief as possible, though we all know I like to talk. There's a pretty big gap between, normally she'll publish her video and then about 2 weeks after I'm to publish mine. However, that did not happen this summer, as the summer's been crazy. And we're only on what, our 4th pencil set, I think, this year. That's the thing, me and Tammy both work. It's one of the reasons we're such good friends, and we do a lot of buddy colors and stuff together, because we both know we're busy, and so we're extremely flexible. Like this pencil collaboration will take a long time, but it's okay because we'll get them done. And she's already on the next one, and so I've got to catch up. Anyway, so that's where we're at. Today I'm covering the Artisto 72 set. I honestly do not remember if they have a 48 set or not. I think the 72 set is all they have. However, if they have different sets, I will link them in the description. I don't have my computer right here for me to look at, so I can't confirm it. Alright, Artisto, colored pencils, just the 72 set. This is what they look like. Let me make sure I'm in camera. You get a color name like pistachio green, and you get a color number. They are hexagonal pencils. I think, no, the Arteza watercolor pencils are hexagonal. I'm trying to think which other ones or well, whatever. So if you don't like how a hexagonal pencil feels in your fingers, just a heads up. They do remind me of Artezas. When I look at them and the feel of them, they kind of feel like the Arteza watercolor pencils. If you have those, so if you want kind of know what they feel like in your hand, that's what they remind me of. But then they've got premium soft Artisto on the other side. They come in a metal tin, 72 colors. I need a better swatch sheet. I'm going to work on that. Getting this video out was more of a priority than re-swatching this first. But here are the 72 colors. We're going to talk about the palette for a minute. I actually have them in this small little space case. I think this is a 72 pencil case. So, alright, so let's talk about this palette, because we're going to just go ahead and get it all out right now. My biggest problem with this set is this color palette. I desperately, Artisto, if you are listening, I doubt you will find this video, but if you do, please curate a 120 set. I am begging you. Because that is the biggest thing holding you back right now, in my opinion. So, you do have a nice wide variety of colors. However, some things I noticed offhand, I did not bring any of my other, I might go grab some of those. Hang on a second. Never fully prepared for this video. Now, I grabbed some other 72 set swatches I had so we can kind of look and compare. So, like, they have a variety of colors. But one thing you'll notice down here is they have a ton of grays. And while there is some differences, there's not, to me, a huge difference. Like 368, 370, and 309 do have distinct difference, like just a slight shade difference. These two look the same to me. These all look slightly different. And then you have an almost black and a black. But you have a wide variety of grays. And if you're someone that uses gray a lot for shading, I think in terms of a 72 set, this is probably going to be a good set for you, because I don't normally see this many grays in a 72 set. However, for me, I don't use grays as much for grays and blacks as much for shading. I just use darker versions of colors. And so this set to me is missing a lot of everything. Like, you get colors, but like your choice of 3, like if you want to color with a set of 3, is really limited. And I'll show you what I mean when I start on the demos here. Like, you typically want a light, medium, and dark. And I don't think this set does a very good job of providing you a light, medium, and dark for every type of color. So, for instance here, this purple, you have this 303, like I said, it's not a very good swatch. These colors, 303 and 304, are very close together. So you would want to pick one or other for your light, but then your 305 and 306 are almost the same color too. They're just, this one, weirdly, even though it's higher up on the numbers, is slightly less dark than 305 on the swatch. So like, you would have a light, medium, dark, but there's not a super variance between those. Blues, you don't have a good like light blue that doesn't have like a little bit of green in it, kind of like these do. These blues are just slight shade differences. There's your one dark blue that you have. Teal, your light, medium, and dark. Again, there's just not a lot of difference between them. So, and then you may have a little bit, here's a light and a medium, but like you really need more of a dark green blue than you do, because these are more of a teal. Does that make sense? Hopefully I'm explaining this well. This became a real challenge to me I think it was an easier palette to work with because I'm using a light color as a base. So typically I'm just grabbing a medium and a dark shade. So in some ways this palette was easier for me to use because I didn't necessarily need that 3-color combo. However, I still struggled because in a lot of cases I just don't feel, wow, it's like right as soon as I start talking, like you really only have one set of oranges to work with. Now that's a pretty good light, medium, and dark variation right there, but like 315 and 316, almost the same color. Like you could have played around with that and gave me an even darker, like almost golden yellow instead of the yellow orange right there. So that's my biggest problem with this set, and going to be my biggest thing at the end is just I don't feel like as a 72 set this is very strong if you're trying to exclusively use the set. If you're using it as a complement to other sets that some people do that, I think it would work well. In terms of the number of browns and grays, if you don't use grays and shading and like browns a lot in your coloring, then this set might be a little difficult. But like I need them to come back to this set, add in more probably lights and more darks. It's a lot of medium colors on here, so they need more lights and darks. Develop a 120 set with that in a more developed palette, and take some of these that are really close in color and make them more distinct. And like when I tell you how these pencils go on paper, they would be my favorite pencil to use if this was a good 120 set. Let's just put it that way. In terms of pencils that work across all types of paper, at least what I've seen in my experience, and we'll see today how it goes, I would say this would become my favorite set if it was a full 120 set and it had those color palettes, because how it goes on the paper, amazing. Like impressed the heck out of me, because I was just ready to like give this set away when I saw how much I was struggling with the colors, and I was like, I'm just gonna give it away. And then I colored with it and I'm like, oh my gosh, these are amazing. But the lack of light tones and dark tones in a bigger set is really hampering me. I'm not one to mix colors. I'm not one to a true artist, a true like advanced colors that can mix colors together. Now I'm not, hopefully they mix together pretty well. I do not have a lot of experience in that. I'm not going to try to do it because there's no point, because that's just something I don't do. I am a lazy colorist. I have limited time. I want to have the color in a pencil ready to go at my fingertips. So this can be a bit of a challenge to help me move past that and to like shade more with grays and stuff, but like that's the thing. And so we'll talk about that in a minute, but like that's going to be my biggest pet peeve. But when I tell you these, if we had a full 120 set that was well curated with the lights and darks added in here, it would definitely be in the running for my favorite set. All right, sorry the wind is blowing. Some comparisons. Here's a Derwent Color Soft palette. You can see this one definitely has more shade variation, where I'm talking about more distinct shade variation. Now I know they just got, is it the Color Softs that I just got the 120 set on? So this is the original 72 set. So see, even they expanded, and I'm glad for that. I struggle with 72 sets because unless they're just very well curated, it's hard to get the light, medium, and dark into a 72 set and have enough coverage of all the colors. And I get that. That's a challenge. But like even here, there's some that are pretty close. You don't see nearly as many grays with this one. I think you got what? I think 650 is supposed to be black. So you got like 5 grays here. Artisto does have like light skin tones. Those can be hard to find in a 72 set as well, but like they're very similar again. But like here, you don't really have that. Crazy Art, Timeless Creations. This is a set you don't see very often that I picked up. It's kind of like their answer to Crayola's sets. And off the bat, like this one actually gives you kind of like some gold colors here. You have your light skin tones there. This one also struggles a little bit with color variation. Like I can, between Pumpkin Orange and Orange Crush, I don't see a lot of difference. But like you get quite a bit of purples in this Timeless Creation set for a 72 set, which is pretty wild. This one doesn't have, has 6, 7 grays. No, 6. But no real rhyme or reason to them. And then finally, Sergeant Art Supremes. Again, you get a lot more yellows and golds in this one. Not a lot of light oranges. So you're light. In this set, just looking at it right off the bat, you're missing a lot of light colors in this set. Except for like your greens. There's hardly any grays in here. There's a silver and 2 grays. A lot of greens in this one. But yeah, you're missing a lot of super light colors in here to really establish this as a 3 set. And also your medium and dark tones in some of these are hard to distinguish differences in. So like right here you have a mid-tone blue, but like all these are different dark blues that you could use with it, but like there's no other real mid-tone blues there. Even though this one says blue, it should be more of a mid-tone. So like I said, it is a bit of a challenge in a 72 set to get a light, medium, dark setup and get the color range that you're looking for. You see that right there. So but most of the time I don't, like I said, enough to tell, you know, the company, please, I'm actually going to write them and, you know, just to make sure they see it and just be like, please come out with a 120 set and make sure you include plenty of light tones and dark tones in it. But yeah, so let's get to the actual colorings. I have 2. I was going to do more with these, but then things got really busy the last few months. I've not been able to color as much as I would like. So we have 2 to show you. This is Hello Spring by Linka Filninko. I do have a video demo of this. I'm going to put in the top right. And we did this picture. So I used the Caran d'Ache Super Colors as a base on this. And then use the Artisto pencils for shading. And I think I just used a gel pen on the outside. Like I said, I was not a fan of these pencils until I started coloring with them. And they go down so smoothly, so easily, even with, you know, light, medium pressure. I do not have to press hard at all with these pencils to get good color out of them. I would highly recommend rotating these pencils when you color with them. They crumble some, but they don't crumble as much as they should, because if you don't rotate the pencils, they'll actually, at the very end tip of the pencil, create this kind of like divot. You can kind of see it here, where it can be a little bit challenging to color like that. So these stay pretty solid. They don't crumble very easily, but I would recommend training yourself to rotate the tip when you're coloring so that it all stays pretty even. I did run into that, but like I said, that's a good thing. You're not losing a lot of pencil, but it didn't take very much at all with these pencils to get the shading. And in terms of laydown, these just did fantastic. I don't know if we've reviewed any other pencil up to this point where I feel like it's just been that easy. Artezas still do well. Like I don't feel like I have to put a lot of pressure with Artezas. I would say Arrtx probably are the closest ones I can think of that perform on that level. And what Arrtx has going for it is the bigger expanded color set. But when I tell you, like, I just had so much fun coloring with these pencils, and that is a very big thing for me to say. I have to be in a real mood to color with color pencils, and I have to be able to handle it, like with my arm and my wrists and stuff, and so sometimes it feels like a chore, it feels like work. Like halfway through I might be enjoying it, but for the most part, shading with pencil is not my absolute favorite thing to do, but like I genuinely enjoy using these pencils. And I thought this picture turned out amazing. I was so happy with it. So there's that one. And I thought, okay, this is really nice paper. So this is the artist edition of her book, and it is extremely heavy cardstock. So like the watercolor pencils and the colored pencils performed well. So I thought, okay, I'm going to test the complete opposite type of paper. Like that's some of the nicest paper you could get for colored pencils, like super smooth, nice cardstocky paper. I'm like, let's test the complete opposite end of the spectrum and go with Amazon paper, which has had a lot of colorful descriptions. Pun intended. Has had a lot of colorful descriptions on their paper, which has sadly just gotten worse as the years go on. But you know, I have so many artists that publish through Amazon that I try to make it work. And again, I don't have time to make copies and print everything on really nice paper, so I find ways around it. But I thought, if the pencils did that well on there, I run in a lot of trouble using pencils in Amazon books. The paper is textured, it's thin, it's like the complete opposite of like smooth artist grade type paper. And so most of the time I hate using pencils in Amazon books, though through this series I am learning how to work with them. So I thought, let's go the complete opposite end of the spectrum, use the same setup, the Caran d'Ache Super Colors as the base, and the Artisto pencil shading. And so we did this picture, and big trucks, tiny men. If you're in the country, you know what I mean. They all gotta have the big trucks that they pretty much fall out of when they try to climb out. And they never actually use them for anything, but I digress. So I'm going to put it in the top right here. I did a video demo of this. This is Joshua Dunbar. Even though it says Jade Summer, it was published under Jade Summer. It is a Joshua Dunbar book. We did this page. I used the Caran d'Ache Super Colors. I've been trying really hard to find a watercolor pencil I can use in Amazon books because the paper is so thin. And I think I found it with the Caran d'Ache brand. Their Super Colors, as you can see, do really well with only a slight wrinkling. The key is not to have to add as much water. So the quicker they dissolve and the easier they dissolve, the less water you got to use. I found the Caran d'Ache Super Colors and the Museum Aquarelles do best. And of course, they are like the costliest ones out there. But anyway, Super Colors is a base. And then the Artisto pencils over the top. And again, when I tell you, this was the first page, I think other than Arrtx pencils, I've enjoyed coloring in Amazon books with Arrtx pencils. I so enjoyed using these Artisto pencils on this paper. They did great, as you can see. They shaded well. I didn't have to use a lot of pressure. I could go so much longer coloring with these pencils because of how they go down on the paper. They're just very smooth, you get a good color payout even with light to medium pressure. And so just like I said, I enjoy these darn pencils. Which is, like I said, such an unusual thing for me to say. And as much as I love Arrtx pencils, I can't say I mean Arrtx pencils, as much as I love Artezas, like I can't say I have the same joy of coloring with them in a variety of books. Particularly, I struggle with them in Amazon books. they don't do as well as I want them to do. Arrtx pencils come pretty close. But like, again, I would say the only thing Arrtx has going for it is I have more colors to choose from, and it's a better curated palette. It's one of the best. Again, Artisto, if you're paying attention, look at what Arrtx did with their 126 color palette, and it's one of the best 120 palettes in my opinion out there. Look at what they did with their color palette and get inspiration from that. But when I say if Artisto could come out with that 120 set, they would top Arrtx easily. For me, because the one thing I think the Artisto does have going for it, well, other than just the layout, the laydown is better for me in my opinion, is they don't crumble, and I don't run through the pencils as much. Arrtx, I can already tell some of my pencils are getting shorter just because I'm burning through them quicker, because probably I color so much with them, but they seem to crumble a little bit more and it burns up the pencil faster. The Artistos don't burn up as fast. Like I said, they actually just stay on that tip. Like, you have to rotate the tip because otherwise it makes it kind of scratchy when you lay down the color. They don't crumble like Arrtx does. So like, if you want longevity in a pencil, I think Artisto's it. So like I said, they both have pros and cons, but the only reason I would pick Arrtx is because they have a better color selection in their 120 set at this point. Artisto would become my favorite pencil if it was a good 120 set. So that's really all I can say about it, y'all. I mean, I don't know what else I can say. But we are going to try a few other types of paper today, and we're going to do just colored pencil. I'm going to try one where I blend the colors, and then I'm going to try a book that we just do straight color, like solid block coloring in. So I am so impressed with those pencils that I think I'm going to message Artisto. I don't know how receptive they are to messages, but I am going to message them, and I'm going to say, listen, we need y'all to make this a 120 set. Seriously. Okay, so as you can see, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit here. It gets a little tricky when I am... Okay. So I've used different ones here. I have Amazon Basics, Arrtx, and Arteza. And so now we are using Artisto. We're just about out of days. So I think it's the last set. and it's October. Well, what can you do? Alright. So, let me pick a page. So one problem with these smaller ones is that some of these I don't think do well in terms of our demo because they don't give enough room to really show like shading and stuff. So we're going to skip these two for now, and I think we're going to do this one today. I have picked, as best I can, a light, medium, and dark out of the sets. And we're going to see how they do. Now, I tend to, when I color with pencils, I tend to go from dark to light. I wonder if I can just zoom in to this one. There we go. So I don't know if you can see this color, but like when I tell you how little pressure I'm putting on this pencil. Artisto also makes a 72 watercolor pencil set. I'm sure eventually I will get to showing my watercolor collection. I am not 100% sure if it's the same color palette. I think their watercolor pencils are okay. But again, I feel like I run into issues trying to get light, medium, darks out of them. But they do have a water. And the one thing I'll say about the 72 set is you can frequently find them for sale. I actually got these. I wasn't going to get the Artisto set, but they ended up having a deal where it was like 50% off, and they were down to $30 at the time, so it was like $15, I think, for both the colored pencil and the watercolor pencils. So that's when I snagged them. So let's talk about price point there. Because it's a 72 set, obviously I don't expect 120 set prices, right? Like, I don't expect $50, $60 for these pencil sets. For the price now I will say, for the price I got for them, for what they are a bargain. So if, like I said, you just want a set to kind of try, maybe a set to try out. So let's say you're new to using colored pencils and you want a set to try out to see if you even like coloring with them. This would be a set I would recommend if you can get it. It is a steal at $15. I even feel like $30 is a fairish price. Like, I wouldn't go any higher than 30 on these, just because of the size of them. They should be, I don't feel like they should be priced higher than that, because you don't have like 120 in there. But like I said, oftentimes they will have discounts. There's a site I use. I'm not an Amazon affiliate, by the way. I can't be, due to my where I work. So any links I provide, I do not get affiliate money from that, but I do still provide them because I want to make it easy for people to find these products. But there is a site I use, and I can't think of the name. It's a really weird name. It's like the same word 2 or 3 times. Oftentimes I go to that site and I'll put the link to an Amazon product, and it'll show its price point over time. So like, it'll show the highest price and the lowest price from like the last couple years. And now I'm going in with the medium. Sorry, I probably should have noted that. And then the lightest. But it'll show price history, and so most of the time I check that. Especially, so, you know, Amazon just had the big Prime Day deals or whatever. We got one thing during that, because to me it was just another, we're going to mark everything up right before the sale and then mark it down so it looks like a sale, and I'm kind of tired of that. So I just didn't want to participate in that personally. But if you found actual, I'm sure they had some actual deals, and if you found them, I am so happy for you, because it's not easy having a hobby that costs money right now. And you got to pay so much for groceries and insurance and everything else, given the current state of the world. So I don't begrudge anybody finding the deals. I don't begrudge anybody shopping on any particular site. So there's the yellow. I think I went in too heavy with the darks, so it's a little harder to see the light, but like, that was so easy to lay those down. Like, I could color a whole picture. Like, if that picture was the whole page, I could color like that. You know, I don't say this lightly, but if I were to ever have to color a background in pencil, when I tell you my special hell is having to color a pencil background. When I tell you, like, if I had to pick my own, you know, the things in my own personal hell. If you ever seen Bill and Ted's, I think it's Bogus Journey with Death, and like, like Bill and Ted supposedly go to hell, and like it ends up being their own personal hell. And for some reason that has stuck with me my entire life. And I thought, if there is a hell, then everybody's got their own personal one. And I always joke that my personal hell would be nothing but colored pencil backgrounds. Look, if you love them, I'm happy for you. I truly am. But I just cannot, I cannot handle it. But when I tell you, if I ever attempt another one, I'm going to try these pencils. That's saying something. So, I mean, I'm telling you, the pressure, I just, I know I keep repeating myself, but it's, so as a little bit of foreshadowing, our next pencil set is the Castle Art Classics, and I colored with those last weekend in a demo, and the picture turned out amazing. Like, it's on Amazon paper, and it was out of a Joshua Dunbar book, and it turned out amazing. But when I tell you the difference in the color payout of those Castle Art pencils and how much pressure I had to use by the end, and it's a fairly simple page, by the end of that page my hand was aching, my wrist was aching, and I dropped the pencil. That's not good. Now see, I dropped it, and but it didn't shatter the whole end, it just took a little bit of it. Like I said, I feel like these are pretty strong pencils. And I do tell you, when I purchased them, a lot of my sets are older, and so while I review them, I always say, you know, disclaimer, companies, particularly during the pandemic, may have changed manufacturers, they may have changed formulas, so what I'm seeing, what I'm reviewing, may not be what they're currently selling. It may not end up being the same quality. However, I did purchase these earlier this year. These are probably my newest set of colored pencils, and so I feel a little more confident in saying these are probably closer to what they're selling right now than other sets I have. I think at one point they did change their color palette too, so some of the older sets might have a different color palette. Green, super pretty. Alright, let's go with red. That one, I feel like I have a really good dark and a really good light, but again, that mid-tone got kind of lost in that one. Now reds, I have a lot of trouble with. I don't know if anybody else does. I'm not technically not labeled as colorblind in any way, shape, or form. However, I have found since I started coloring that I have a real problem with distinction of reds and oranges, and like orange reds. It's really hard for me to tell the differences in different shades of red. I struggle with. They all kind of look, all the mid-tones kind of look the same to me. So anytime I'm doing a review and I say all the colors kind of look the same, we just dismiss it in the reds because that just might be who I am as a person. But when I see that problem in the other colors, then I know it's not just me. That's probably why y'all don't see me. I like using red, but I struggle with picking a good light, medium, and dark tone that I don't feel all look the same. I do feel like these blend really well together too. I could sit here and color with these all day. It's like my biggest challenge isn't actually using the pencils, it's trying to get the colors that I need. So yeah, these were a very pleasant surprise for me. Like I said, I wasn't planning on buying them, and then Tammy talked them up so much that I had to try them, and especially for that price. Oh shoot, yeah. And then I tried them, and I was kind of like, they're all right. I tried them a little bit. Actually, I don't know if okay, so this is what I was talking about. Like, it's not crumbling until I put my finger to it. It's not crumbling, but it is creating a very distinct point on there. So I'm going to rotate the pencil and shape and color with the other side so that it just doesn't create a big divot that can make it hard to color. Like, these stay so solid, they just don't crumble, which is great, but you've got to keep that in mind when you're coloring with the pencil. I am kind of being light pressure Michelle today, which is highly unusual for me. I always joke you can tell how stressed I am by how much pressure I use if I'm coloring with pencils. Like last weekend for that cat picture, I was using a lot of pressure because I was under a lot of pressure. And also the Castle Arts require more pressure to, yeah, that's a, you know, obviously that's a factor too, but alright. I'll just stick a yellow right there. And then we'll come in with some blue. And like, simple fact that I'm just, big part of it's the pencils, but the simple fact that I'm not still applying heavy pressure to them, regardless of whether I have to or not, is indicative that I am feeling pretty good this weekend. It's been pretty good. I noted in Friday's video that Winry had some issues with her stomach. My guess is the antibiotics a couple weeks ago really messed up her GI system, because she's older anyway and she already has a iffy stomach. It just, and she acted like it was fine until it wasn't, because that's what cats do. Then turns out she's lost almost a pound and we just didn't know. So she is improving slowly. I feel more optimistic about her for sure. We're giving her fluids, we're giving her anti-nausea shots twice a day, and she's also getting a GI relief capsule. She is eating. I can keep her eating pretty well, though I have had to go get new food to entice her. Biggest problem with her is she's very skittish and she does not like to be confined. And so now that we're having to medicate her more often, she is running and hiding a lot. I need her to come outside because it's fixing to get a lot cooler this week. I hope that's just a temporary blip, because if not, then we quite literally had like a 2-week fall before it started getting cold, which would be about right for this year. But she is doing better, and that's the biggest relief. I had to delay going to visit my parents this weekend because of that. She is, however, sleeping on me all night, every night, on my chest. I am not allowed to roll over in the bed at night. And so, because she is being so needy right now, I'm not going to stress her out further by not being here. So, just throwing the darkest gold. Whoop. Now, if you do press too hard, it will snap on you. There's that heavy pressure I was saying I didn't have. Is this the mid green? Let's just make these little dots green. Anyway, I think you get the idea. It may not feel like it in real time on here, but I'm a very slow colorist when it comes to colored pencils, and I say this was faster, and I know you're like, boy, this took forever. And when I tell, that's what I mean. I'm a slow colorist. And if this is quick to me, then, oh, there it goes. See, if you don't, if you don't get that crumbly, not crumbly, I don't know how to explain it. If you don't rotate the pencil, it can just, like I said, make things a little awkward. Alright, so, no smudging, no smearing. Might be a little bit of that blue right there on that paper. But, let me zoom out. Not that way. Not that way, that way. And there we go. I feel like it's, the Artezas might be just a tad bit brighter. That is one thing that I do love about my Arteza pencils, is that I feel like they're nice and bright, and I use them a lot of times when I want a real bright looking picture. They're probably, even with the wax coating, heavy wax coating they can have, I feel like their pop, the color is some of the best across all my colored pencils. That's like a pro for them. But to me, these look very similar to the Arrtx pencils in layout. So, and again, with the reds, don't fault me on the reds. A, I have a hard time picking different tones of reds, and B, I am limited by what I have on here. I think I picked this one, and this one. And as you can see, these two shades are not really that different. So, alright. But in terms of layout, like putting them, actually coloring with them, they're a lot of fun. These are a lot of fun. Alright, we're going to do one more. Worlds of Wonder. Boy. I have been able to color a lot this weekend, which has been really nice. I've also got out and walked yesterday. I took a few days off work when Mary wasn't feeling well, and I did a lot of sleeping because she wanted to sleep on my chest. She was pretty glued to me 24/7 for a few days, and so I just basically napped with her. And while part of that, I think, is because I'm taking the full dose of Ambien again, and I want to cut that down. I think that sleep also did me a lot of good, because my headspace the last few days has been better than it has been in weeks. So I start my new job a week from tomorrow. So we're going to cross our fingers and hope that I can heal what I can of my current kind of burnout phase, because I can't take a leave of absence before I start this new role. And anyway. Alright, so we got Amazon Basics, Arrtx, and Arteza here. Again, just the brightness of the Arteza pencils to me has always been stellar. So we're going to do this one. And I'm going to try to zoom in. There we go. And I need to grab a few other pencils, because we also we'll use an orange. We have the lime green. We also use a kind of light blue. The fact that that's called Castleton green and it's this color seems very weird. Any other colors? So we need like this color, which is a red violet. And we just don't really, we have like one red violet that isn't as distinct, but that's the one we're going to use. Is that 343? The magenta, basically. Okay. Alright, so, but not done yet. Let's go with blue. I may cut that piece out. I have no idea what was coming out of that truck, but no, my luck, the weird AI that I'm sure YouTube uses would be able to pick it out. So I would say right off the bat, I don't think this lays down as solid of a layer as some of the other pencils, like the Artezas. These are, again, feel similar to the Arrtx pencils. I did get a little bit of crumble right there, look at that. I am applying a bit more pressure just to try to make this like a one layer situation. I am getting a little bit of crumbling as I've had to apply heavier pressure. So if you do use heavy pressure on these do crumble a bit, so make sure you have like a little makeup brush or some sort of brush, as I've forgotten mine. You can gently blow on the paper as well, which is what I usually do in a pinch. These aren't the worst offenders. Alright, so I'm having to do a voiceover for the rest of this video because my ever so considerate neighbors, even though they could definitely tell I was recording, turned on their radio, and it did pick up in the background, and so I don't want to get slapped with a copyright violation because of some 90s country that you could barely hear in my background. So we are voicing over this section, and hopefully I am not repeating myself. Did I talk about, well, we'll talk about that in a minute, but I think what I was talking about is that these do crumble a bit when you're applying heavy pressure, like if you're trying to do a solid block of color like this. But they're not as bad as like a Prismacolor, and as long as you have like a makeup brush, or you can usually blow gently on the paper, that will help prevent smudging or any issues with those crumbles later on. And I think I'm saying, and again, if I repeat myself, I apologize, but to me, laying these down, and when I looked at the finished product, these feel and look very similar to the Arrtx pencils on this page. And so, me personally, if I was doing block coloring with these like this with just one layer, I would use these, like if I had small detail sections, I'm not going to do a bunch of shading in, and I'm just going to fill them in, like these lines or those hearts right there, anything decorative on a page like that. I could use these. I mean, these do the job no problem. But if I had, yeah, don't do what I do. Don't swipe at the page, but at least they're not smudging, so that's a good sign. But when it comes to big blocks of color, kind of like the outside border of this stamp, I feel like these don't quite give you the coverage that other pencils probably do. When in the before picture, and then when I zoom back out here, you will kind of see that the Artezas and even the Amazon Basics, I find that really waxy pencils do really good at big blocks of color. So if you have like a big area like this. So if I'm repeating myself on this, I'm sorry. I tried to go back and make sure I wasn't, but I probably am. I don't know if I did my rant on the thing I hate most in this world is coloring big areas like this or a background with colored pencils. And I was saying that how there's these movies, Bill and Ted movies, and there's one called Bogus Journey where Death is in it, and the Grim Reaper, and I like his character a lot, and he ends up sending them to their what turns out to be their own personal hells. And like ever since I saw that when I was younger, that's always stuck to me, that like if there is a hell, like everybody has their own personal hell. And so I always joke about, and I know some people don't take that as a joke, but I joke about it. And I joke about things that would be in my personal hell. And when I tell you that coloring backgrounds with colored pencils would be one of those things, like it'd be nothing but backgrounds. Just big blocks color with colored pencils all day. Like that would be part of it, because I hate it. It takes forever. It's time consuming. It wears down my hand and my wrist. It leaves me with less time to color with colored pencils because I'm coloring such a wide block. Even without the blending and shading, just coloring like this, like big blocks of color, I feel like my time with colored pencils could be better utilized like in smaller areas. And so, however, if I were to try another background, it would probably be like an Arrtx pencil or a Artisto pencil. I would be curious to try a background with these, given how much color I can get out of them with little pressure. Like if I was going to try another background, I would probably use these pencils to do that. But you're not going to really see that happen very often on my page. I know I'm being kind of messy here, but and again, hopefully not repeating myself. I actually had to work to put down this much pressure. I think I was saying earlier that you can really, if I'm in super stressed and I try to use pencils, I will use a lot more pressure on them without, realizing it than I do when I'm relaxed. And like I said, sometimes that's the makeup of the pencils. Sometimes I have to use harder pressure to get more of a payout. But like last weekend, that cat picture with the Castle Arts, like I would have been using heavy pressure regardless of, I needed to use it anyway to get the color I wanted. But like I was just stressed, but like I'm a little more relaxed this weekend, so like that other picture I colored was a little easier because of that, because my pressure I'm a bit more relaxed, so there's less tension in my back and in my arm. But I think part of that is I took a couple days off last week. One of the things when we did the first few days was she, wouldn't leave my side. She doesn't like to be confined, but she wants to lay on me. And I knew she felt bad, and I couldn't deny her that. And it was impossible for me to like work with her laying on me. So, and I was upset about her anyway, and just not really focused at work. So I took a couple days, just so she could lay when she wants to, and we nap together a lot. And I think part of it is from where I'm taking the full dose of Ambien, is where I'm having so much fatigue lately. I think it's a number of factors. It's seasonal. My vitamin D levels and B12 levels are probably low again. Gosh, I can be in here and there's enough music coming through that door. We're going to cross our fingers on that one, and just do a hope and a prayer on that one. It's crazy, like, when I go out in the mornings, if I go around, like, I really should be getting out there sooner, but it's just hard for me to get up early. But in the mornings until about 11 or 12, like, it's actually pretty nice. But then, especially during the week, but then like on the weekends, y'all could hear in the video how many vehicles come by. I almost wish we had a similar type of porch on the back side of the house, because that would get me away from the constant music from the neighbors. That would get me away from most of the road noise, because they don't use we're on a corner, they don't use the other road quite as much. This is a main road thoroughfare through town. Alright, so here we go. Our solid block coloring. Like I said, I think they do really well in small areas. So if I was working on a page with pencils and I just wanted to use these in small areas, like one color, I think they do just fine. Bigger blocks of coloring, they just don't go down as smoothly. They are a little scratchy. As you can see, you don't get an entirely smooth color. So I wouldn't necessarily use them for that. But like I said, again, when I hopefully zoom out in a minute, you'll see that I feel like the layout of these in the Arrtx are very similar, which coincides with how I feel about them. There we go. So yeah, I feel like these lay down very similar to the Arrtx, and they're so similar type of formula, whereas Amazon Basics and Arteza are more wax based. They lay down a little easier just for solid coloring, and they don't, Arrtx and what are the ones I'm reviewing right now, Artisto, still aren't quite as bright as Arteza's. I still think they went out, like if you really want like a good solid bright pencil. If I were to be doing this type of coloring where I'm not worrying about shading or anything and I'm just coloring solid with colored pencils, I would probably pick Arteza so far, just based on what we've covered. But I just don't do that very often because, again, it's hard on my wrist, and even if it's a lighter, even if it's a pencil, I don't have to use as much pressure. So I think we're getting to the point of final thoughts on here. I would say in terms of pros, these pencils, in my opinion, lay down the best across different types of paper. And that's just saying, in my opinion, my guess is because I've tested smooth artist grade cardstock paper and I've tested the really rough textured thin Amazon paper, and I love the layout on both. I feel like not all pencils can do that, and so I figure pretty much anything in between it can handle. We also used them in this Rita Berman book and Johanna Basford book, and I think they did well enough in both books. I would probably use them. I'd be curious to shade in the Johanna Basford books to see how they would do, but I feel like these cover a lot of books really well. And I'm saying this without, I haven't seen Tammy's review yet. I need to go back and watch it. So I don't know what she said at this point. I'm just blindly doing this. But they lay down really smoothly. They don't crumble unless you apply super heavy pressure. They're going to be good, long-lasting pencils. I could see using these over and over again, and they're not going to, like, y'all saw, I sharpened these before I started coloring in these books, and I didn't have to go back and sharpen them again or do anything. Like, I was able to color these pictures no problem. So these pencils are good and long-lasting. Great bargain if you can get them for half off at $15. This is probably the best pencil set in terms of laydown, in my opinion, that you can get at that price. I wouldn't, as I've said, probably pay more than $30 for these, simply just because it's only 72 of them. It's not the pencil quality, it's just the quantity. But yeah, if you can get them discounted, I think that's a huge bonus to these. Cons, you see the palette. Again, the biggest con to me is just this is really missing a lot of light tones and dark tones. I feel like there's a lot of mediums and a lot of colors that are very close to each other. I really want them to do a 120 set, maybe revise their palette and take the time to add in light and dark colors. Some of these that are really close, like go ahead and take and modify the shades. If this was a 120 set, it would be my favorite set, hands down, to use across any paper. I mean, I'd still use my other sets, but like I would use these a lot if it was a well curated set. That's, if I was choosing between these and the Arrtx pencils right now, I would say go with the Arrtx because their palette is one of the best. Their curated 120 set is one of the best color palettes I think that's out there. It was carefully thought out, and if Artisto was watching this video, I would say use that palette as inspiration. But if Artisto came out with a good palette at a 120 set, I would tell you to buy the Artisto instead, especially because their price point. Obviously, their price point would go up, but it would be competitive with the Arrtx. The Arrtx, I do seem to burn through those a little faster too. So again, Artisto would get there. So like, Artisto's right on the edge there, but the only reason I would tell you do the Arrtx over Artisto is because of the color choice and the size of the set. So if you're like somewhere out there deciding between two, I do feel like they perform very similar to each other. So if you like Arrtx, you'll probably like Artisto. Again, all these are my opinion. Normally, and I'm going to put in the description, I did buy this set this year. I think it was this year or last year. Typically my sets are older, and so these can change at any time. The manufacturer could change or they could change manufacturers, they could change the color palette, they could change the formula of these pencils at any time. So I cannot guarantee what I have here is going to be what you get. We're going to cross our fingers and hope, because this set is newer than my other sets. So hopefully the formula is still there, and I'm really hoping they don't change that. If you're like me and you like Artisto and you kind of agree with me, it needs more pencils, maybe let's all email Artisto together and maybe they will actually do it, because I would love to see that. And I think they blend really well together. They're great for shading. Maybe not the best for solid block coloring, but for the type of coloring I do over marker and like base colors, they do great. I just need more mid-tone and dark tone distinction, or a light tone, mid-tone, dark tone distinction. Sometimes I use lights in my books too. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Hope I didn't repeat myself too much here at the end. All this is going to be put in the description, and I have links to my demos. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments, or if you know, do you use Artisto? Do you like them? Do you dislike them? Why? You know, feel free to put that in the comments as well. My opinion is not the end all be all. We are all different, and we have different opinions. So thanks, and bye for now.